Good morning, everyone. Hope you had a great first week of 2022. Actually, last night, Mother Moon hosted another powerful prayer rally, inviting leaders from all over the world to turn their attention on the peaceful reunification of North and South Korea. It was a beautiful and inspiring program, and I hope many of you were able to attend. Last week, I talked about the path to perfection, that we all have this natural process of growth, but as humans, we also have a special requirement to fulfill our portion of responsibility, which was to obey God's commandment and grow our hearts in order to earn our rightful place as lords of creation. Today, I wanted to talk about living for eternity. Have you ever thought about living forever? Growing up, I'm sure you heard stories about the gods or superheroes, or even supervillains like Dracula, who are immortal. Maybe some of you thought about finding the fountain of youth. There's actually ongoing research today where they're looking into technology and medicine that can help us all live longer. I think there's something in our inner psyche that really wants to live forever. But the question is, can we? Can we live forever? Maybe through our lineage, your family name might continue on for generations, or maybe your legacy. Maybe you create an invention or you create a business that lives beyond your life. Actually, according to principle, we all have the ability to live for eternity. Let's first take a look at how humans were designed by God. The human body and spirit. Let's read. The universe was created after the pattern of a human being who is in the image of God's dual characteristics. Therefore, the structure of the universe and every entity in it resembles that of a human being, which consists most fundamentally of mind and body. So according to the principle, the universe was created after the pattern of a human being, including both the mind and spirit, as well as our bodies. In fact, we share 97% of the same atoms as the rest of the galaxy. And many of the systems that allow our body to function are similar to the ecosystems that allow the Earth to sustain itself. So there's a lot of similarities between the Earth, the universe, and our human body. Let's continue to read. God created human beings to encapsulate in a substantial form the essences of everything in the cosmos. The human spirit encapsulates all of the elements found in the spirit world. The human body encapsulates all the elements of the physical world, since human beings contain within themselves the essences of all things in the cosmos. Each person is a microcosm. So human beings have both a spirit and a body, which includes all the elements of the spirit realm and the physical realm. Therefore, the principle is arguing that each human being is like a microcosm of the whole universe. That's quite fascinating. Let's continue. God endowed human beings with sensibilities to all things in the universe and gave them the mandate to rule over the universe directly. God created the human body with elements from the physical world, such as water, clay, and air, to allow us to perceive and govern it. To make it possible for us to perceive and govern the spirit world, God created our spirits with the same spiritual elements that compose the spirit world. Okay, so that makes sense. God created us to have both physical and spiritual senses in order for us to be able to govern both. In that sense, we're like mini gods, or more accurately, children of God. So going back to the point of having the ability to live for eternity, as we discussed, each human being has both a physical body and a spirit body. And although our physical body is limited by time and space, our spirits were designed to live on for eternity. To help us understand this concept, let's take a look at this animated video made by a good friend of mine, Alan Becker. It's called The 3 Stages of Life. Enjoy.
Here is a refreshing take on the idea of heaven. So most of us imagine clouds, pearly gates, God asking if you've been a good boy, and the fiery pits of hell that await you if you haven't. Let's rethink that. Let's think of it more as our destination on a path of spiritual growth God designed to give us the ultimate joy and happiness. Here's the path. It's divided into 3 stages: the water stage, the air stage, and the love stage. We traditionally call them the womb, earthly life, and spirit world. These names, water, air, and love, describe what we breathe in those worlds. We breathe water in the womb, air while on earth, and love in the spirit world. And just as we are developing lungs to breathe air while we are living in the world of water, we are developing heart to breathe love while we are living in the world of air. And just as the baby has no idea it will need lungs in the next world, we also have no idea how important it is to grow our ability to love. But luckily, God created a school of love for everyone to go through called the family. You first learn children's love. As you receive love from your parents, you learn how to give and take love with parents and elders. Then you learn siblings' love by interacting with siblings and peers. You're starting to give love by sharing with others. When you find a partner, you learn conjugal love and learn that the only way to make love truly work is by giving 100% to each other. When you have children, you learn parental love, which gives and gives love unconditionally. This is where your love is perfected. Finally, when you become a grandparent, you are able to understand the viewpoints of both the child and the parent, kind of like God Himself. Through experiences and practice in the school of love, we gain the heart that breathes these 4 kinds of love. Then when we enter the world of love, we experience infinite, boundless joy and happiness fueled by our love. You may ask, so why doesn't God just give us the ultimate joy and happiness without having to work for it? Well, imagine the difference between a person who climbed all the way to the top of Mount Everest compared to a person who took a helicopter to the top. They would have completely different experiences. It's kind of like the only way for us to even feel the ultimate joy and happiness is by making it up to us so that we can own it. So what is the next world like? We can't possibly capture it in our minds because we have only experienced earthly life. Can a fetus that has never opened its eyes possibly understand what it's like to go rock climbing? It's the same way for us on Earth. We're so used to being limited by time and space. Everything is about going from here to there and from now to later. Outside of this womb that we call earthly life, we can travel 1 billion miles in an instant. The speed of love is way faster than the speed of light. If you want something, you get it. If you even think about meeting a certain person, that person will appear before you in an instant. In spirit world, communication is telepathic. People look at you and they instantly know your heart, and you know their heart. There's nothing lost in translation or misunderstandings. You just know. The afterlife is an eternal environment where we live according to the quality of love we achieved during our life on earth. If we have a heart full of love, we will enjoy an unlimited existence of true creativity. Just think about how much you value your appearance, your status in society, your wealth, or your possessions, and think about how little it matters compared to your growth in love. So your appearance. In spirit world, you can change that at any time. Your status won't matter one bit compared to how loving you are. Your wealth and possessions, you can literally have anything you want when you die. We spend our whole lives worrying about these things, but in the grand scheme of things, this life is just the gateway to our real lives. And growing our ability to love is the only thing that you bring with you. So let's spend the precious amount of time we have left becoming loving people. If you can love endlessly on earth, you can roam freely in heaven.
Thank you. That was an amazing video. It really articulates this principle of the different stages of our life and the relationship between our physical life and our spiritual life, and how all of us can live for eternity. It's a really good perspective that I think it'd be good for all of us to reflect on. So now we know that all of us can live for eternity. Yay! But the next question is, so what? What does that have to do with me? Well, good question. Why does this matter? Well, let's read. We must lead a good life while we are on the earth. Humans are created so that once they reach perfection, they will fully breathe the love of God. Those who committed sinful deeds while on earth become crippled spirits who are incapable of fully breathing in the love of God. They find it agonizing to stand before God, the center of true love. Basically, your actions on earth reflect or affect your spirit. And that spirit, really how healthy that spirit is determines how healthy you are or how free you are in the eternal realm. So it's kind of like, in the video, it was saying how your thoughts and your feelings, all of that is telepathic. So if your heart's good, you feel quite free to relate with anybody and anything. But if your heart's kind of limited or negative, or you feel like you don't want to be with others, you don't want others to know what you're thinking or know how you're feeling, things like that. So it's like you will self-restrict yourself because you don't want to be around people. Whereas if you were to grow your heart, then you feel really free to be yourself and be with others in the spirit realm. So heaven or hell is not somewhere you go based on the judgment from God. It's actually how free or restricted you feel in your ability to love based on your own spiritual health. So these principles are universal. So one more time, it's not God that passes judgment on you. It's really based on your own spiritual health and strength that determines how well you will function in the next realm. Just yesterday, I had a chance to attend a Songhua funeral service for one of the members or elder members in our community. Now, funerals are really not my thing. I find them a little bit awkward, especially if I don't know them personally, then it's not my cup of tea. But I went really representing our founders, and as the national pastor, I went to really greet and honor the family for their dedication and service. And one thing I noticed as I was listening to the testimonies was that this individual, he really was a stubborn person. But over time, he really rounded out and was able to relate and love others more broadly. And I really felt like he lived a full life, that his time on earth was a chance for him to really round out those edges and mature as the spirit so that he can really be free in the next realm. That's kind of how I felt. And also I want to just put a shout out to the songs that we heard earlier in the service. Robert Hall talking about love. That's really the essence of what we're talking about, what we will be talking about in terms of growing your spirit. And the million dreams, really, God gave us the creativity to be able to create our own reality. We've been gifted with this ability to create and co-create. And so I really feel like that's the kind of spirit and heart that we want to develop while we're here on earth. Ultimately, if you take away one point, if you see and understand that God is our parent, God wants all of us to grow our hearts while we're on earth. So we're able to fully function in this next realm. In one sense, okay, try to get this point. When we're born on earth, it's more like our spirits are conceived. And our time on earth is like our spirits in the womb. And when we physically die, our spirits are born into the spirit realm. So from God's perspective, our birth and death are more like spiritual conception and birth of our eternal spirit. Don't know if you got all that, but anyway, so what it means is it's really important that we grow our spirit while on earth. So let's take a look on how we can do that. Let's read physical and spiritual health. For the physical self to grow in good health, it must have proper nourishment. It must absorb air and sunlight and must eat and drink food and water. The body has give and take with this nourishment through its digestive and circulatory systems. So this makes sense. Our physical body needs proper nourishment and exercise to grow and be healthy. If you don't eat for a while, you naturally feel weak. And if you don't exercise, we don't feel healthy. So for the new year 2022, I made a challenging fitness goal. And I knew it would be difficult, and although I knew it was possible, I wasn't sure if I'd be motivated enough to reach the goal. Just a quick note, it's like doing 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100, squats, and 20 pull-ups, all in 10 minutes or less. Anyway, fortunately, Fred challenged me, saying that there's a 95% chance that I wouldn't be able to reach this fitness goal. So we made a bet reflecting those odds, and that gave me some strong motivation. So thank you, Fred. We all know that it takes discipline and effort to exercise, but you feel good afterwards, and your body becomes stronger and healthier. The same exact principle applies to our spiritual body. Let's read. The spirit grows through give and take action between two types of nourishment: life elements of a yang type that come from God, and vitality elements of a yin type that come from the physical self. The spirit self not only receives vitality elements from the physical self, it also returns an element to the physical self, which we call the living spirit element. Okay, to translate that into language that might be easier to understand, our spirit also needs nourishment and exercise. If we don't consume spiritual food, we feel spiritually weak. And if we don't exercise our spirit, we don't feel spiritually healthy. So what does it look like to consume spiritual food? I don't know if anyone ever felt spiritually weak or spiritually dead before. Like you have no drive, no motivation, no sense of purpose. That means you're spiritually weak, okay? It's probably because you haven't received or consumed any spiritual food recently. If so, what you need to do is study God's words or these principles. Fortunately, all of you that are listening today, you're receiving spiritual food through National Family Service. But you can also join a Bible study or even join morning devotion with Dr. Yong, edu.familyfed.org. So by consuming spiritual food, you're giving nourishment to your spirit. However, just consuming spiritual food is not enough to get spiritually healthy. You got to exercise your spirit. How? Well, basically, you need to do what your original mind tells you to do. Basically, for me, that means listen to my wife, or actually, it's more like listen to my conscience. And as tough as it is to listen to your conscience or your original mind, by doing so, just like a good workout, it's tough, but you feel good afterwards. So let's go into more detail on how to grow your spirit self. The conscience is that faculty of the human mind, which by virtue of its inborn nature, always directs us toward what we think is good. However, due to the fall, human beings have become ignorant of God and thus ignorant of the absolute standard of goodness. The original mind is that faculty of the human mind which pursues absolute goodness. The original mind, being sensitive to the proper direction, works to correct the conscience. So this is very interesting. According to the principle, there is a difference between your conscience and your original mind. Fortunately, we do have both of these to guide us towards what we should be doing. Our conscience is something that directs us towards what we think is good. And this is affected by social norms and what's kind of expected of you. But our original mind comes straight from God, and it directs us naturally towards absolute goodness. So not based on social norms. It's really something more, how do I say it? Like intuitive, straight from God, that, oh, this is right, this is true. That's really your original mind. So how do we grow our spirit? First step, start by listening to your conscience. And then as you get better at that, try tuning into your original mind. Again, there's a distinction. Conscience is following what the social norm says of what's right and wrong, what's proper, right? The original mind, tuning into that, it's more like asking the question to yourself, what should I do in this situation, God? And listening for an answer. That's your original mind speaking, okay? And fortunately, the principle explains a systematic approach to strengthening your original mind. And there's 3 key ways. It's by pursuing truth, pursuing beauty, and pursuing goodness. Those are the 3 ways that you can actively strengthen and exercise your original mind. So what does that look like? I'll give you a quick example for each, and then we'll kind of wrap it up here. So truth, anytime you pursue truth, it's when you study God's words and practice living according to it, okay? So that's the pursuit of truth. Anytime you do that, then you're strengthening your original mind. Next is beauty. To really develop your original mind through beauty, it's through things like experiencing harmony by spending time in nature, because nature is designed by God to be in harmony. So when you spend time in nature, you're able to really experience true beauty, and that can really stimulate your original mind. You can also take an active approach of pursuing beauty by creating harmony in human relations. So anytime you develop relations with other people, you're actually developing harmony in that relationship, and that's also an exercising your spirit of creating beauty. And finally, goodness. Goodness is anytime you practice serving others, loving others, that's goodness. So by pursuing truth, beauty, and or goodness, you can consciously strengthen and exercise your original mind. Ultimately, it's about growing your capacity to love by practicing loving others with God's love. So in summary, we were designed by God to have both a physical self, which is temporary, and a spirit self, which is eternal. Secondly, how healthy our spirit and heart grows while on earth determines how well and free we can function in the eternal realm. Third, just as our body needs nourishment and exercise to be healthy, our spirit needs nourishment and exercise through earning these good vitality elements. And finally, the best way to grow your spirit is by strengthening your original mind through the pursuit of truth, beauty, and goodness. As we begin this new year of 2022, let's remind ourselves that the most important thing to develop while we are here on earth, more than our fitness, more than our finances or our careers, is our hearts. Let's live each day with that intention to grow our hearts by practicing loving others as God does. May God bless you and your family in this year of 2022. Thank you very much.